Welcome everyone. Happy Women's History Month. Little plug for our Women's Leadership Collaborative Zoom backgrounds that you can get on the WLC website. This is, I think, our third virtual mentoring kickoff that we have done. I don't think we thought we would have three, but we really, the committee, we perfected this the past few times to make it valuable to everyone. We know it's different than in person, but we hope you walk away feeling inspired and excited to be part of our program. So in the next hour, we will give a little overview of the mentoring program. We have some icebreaker questions. We have a panel featuring a match that I think you've been matched 6 months, Ebony and Anna, but they'll share their story in a panel discussion and you'll have opportunity to ask them some questions. We'll do a quick review of the program, frequently asked questions, and then we'll have a very short breakout at the end. If your match is here, you will be with that person. If not, we'll put you in a group and you'll have the chance to meet some new faces. So quick review of our one-to-one mentoring program. So EWL launched in December of 2015. And then in 2017, we launched the pilot mentoring program and we had 33 matches. So you can see over the years that interest has grown. 2020, you see that spike. We did start making matches twice a year rather than one. So it's a little bit of an anomaly, but 2021, you all are part of the first matching and then we'll make another matching in the summer. So interest continues to grow and we just really thank everyone for participating so we can continue to do this. Another key success story, I'd say, of this program is that our EWL mentees are now becoming the mentors. So on the screen, you see 15 women who started in EWL. Many of them participated in this program, and then many of their mentors actually nominated them into Tempo, and they're now serving as mentors. I think there's a few on this call. So a really important piece of our Tempo succession plan, our bridge from EWL to Tempo. And we know that these numbers will just continue. And here's one that I like to highlight from Crystal and Jane. Jane sees things in me that I don't see in myself. One of those things was that I was ready for Tempo. She encouraged me and nominated me. So not only serving as a mentor, but a champion and a sponsor. And now I get to stop talking and I will turn it over to Kim, one of our committee members, to lead us in the icebreaker.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Hope everyone's having a great week. My name is Kim Schultz. I'm going to lead you through a couple of fun icebreaker questions just to kind of get things moving here. So in order to do this, you just have to go to the Mentee website, which you see on the screen, and enter that code. And then you should be able to answer a couple of questions that we're going to do, and then we'll see all the results on the screen.
Can we get the code again?
Yes. It's loading. There we go. It's right at the top. It's 8600134. So our first question is just get a sense of who's here today. So are you a Tempo member or are you an EWL member? Looks like we have a lot of EWL. Oh, getting a little more even here. Okay, so we have a lot of enthusiastic EWLers, and so all Tempo members, take note for next time to bring your other Tempo members with you. All right, next question. So we just want to hear from you to see, what do you want to get out of this session? Why are you attending today? What do you hope to take away? I think just a couple words. Okay, a couple people answering. Inspiration, wisdom, best practices for mentoring, community, tips for making the most of mentorship. See a lot about inspiration, how to maximize your relationships, networking, expectations. That's interesting. Connection, bond as a community. I think we're probably all missing the connection and bonding and networking a little bit these days. I definitely am. Unexpected benefits, the structure. So I think a little bit structure, expectations, what can EWL provide to help you guys be support during the pandemic. Yep. Love meeting other motivated women. Awesome. All right, so next is, what do you hope to get out of your mentor-mentee relationship? Why are you participating in the program? Support is the first word that came in. Perspective, to grow more. Shared growth. Okay, so lots about growing, lots about support, encouragement. Whoa, it's hard to keep track of this bubble. But wisdom again, different perspectives, lots of support and guidance, a non-work member, so someone outside of your normal day-to-day to connect with, advice, professional direction, encouragement. Insight into Milwaukee. Oh, that's good. So maybe we have someone who's newer to Milwaukee. Awesome. All right, for those already in a pair, if you experience challenges adapting your relationship to a virtual environment, I think this is part of why we wanted to have the discussion we're having today, because it seems like that has been a challenge based on the surveys we received from some of our pairs. Oh, well, 82% are saying no, so that's good. 20-something% are saying yes. So hopefully what we get out of this session will help people, but that's good to see a lot of people are confident in their pair. Awesome. And then, well, I think this is the last one. How often do you plan to meet with your mentor or mentee in 2021? Okay, a lot of once a month. A lot of people are unsure, probably because you're a new pair, so you haven't thought about it yet. Bi-weekly, 14%. So it looks like once a month is pretty popular choice, or unsure. So hopefully we'll get some tips from our pair today to hear, when they meet, how often, how they set it up. So thank you guys for participating in that. That was super helpful. And then I'm going to turn it over to Julie, who is going to lead our mentor pair discussion.
Excellent. So welcome everybody as we have a engaging panel conversation with one of our mentor-mentee pairs. And I'm going to have them introduce themselves, but I will introduce myself. My name is Julie Garcia Sotek, and this is my third year in EWL. And I've been a part of the mentoring committee. This is my first full year and really excited about everything that we've been doing. So I am pleased to announce our first mentee is Ebony Lewis. And Ebony, I'm going to have you introduce yourself.
All right, thank you, Julie. My name is Ebony Lewis. I am the Director of Leadership and Service in Health and Wellness at the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Milwaukee, and a proud EWL member for 3 years now. I've been a part of the one-to-one mentoring committee for all 3 years, and I am currently the chair of the committee, and really just enjoy being able to help make matches. And I'm really excited to talk about my match today, because I think it really came at a time where, COVID and a pandemic, lots going on. And so I think I was extremely blessed with the magic that Mard worked with my mentor. And so I'm just really excited to be here and hopefully be able to be a support to you all as you go on into your pairs. And I appreciate you all for joining the program, because this is what, the committee, we work so hard to do and make this possible for EWL and Tempo members. So thank you.
And then our mentor is Anna Oakes, and I'm going to have you introduce yourself.
Hi, Julie. Thanks, Ebony. Yeah, it's good to be here with everybody. So I'm Anna Oakes, and I help restore humanity and performance into organizations. And I do that through coaching and consulting in a variety of things, but I've been involved with Tempo for, I probably need to look that up, years, sometimes more active than others, depending what was going on. So just really glad to be a part of this pairing. Ebony is a partner of mine, right? And that to me is what a true mentor-mentee relationship is. And she's right. It came at a really great time for both of us, probably all of us that were paired last year. So I'm excited to share some of our learnings and growth with you.
Excellent. Thank you, Anna and Ebony. And I just want to give a quick shout out to my mentor who's not on the call today, but couldn't be doing what I'm doing right now without her. Her name is Suzanne Maldonado, and she is a Temple member, and she works at Goodwill. And we've been in our relationship for 2 years now. And she's been a great support system, especially in light of the pandemic, in spite of transitioning out of a role, starting to look for a new one over the past year, and just keeping my spirits up, my emotions on the positive end, even if I'm falling down on the other side of the spectrum. And we'll talk a little bit more about that and how it's going for these two. But for all of those of you on the call, feel free. We're going to have a Q&A session right after the panel conversation. And the way that I'm going to handle it is I'm going to bounce questions between Ebony and Anna. But as we're having that conversation, feel free to jot down any questions you might have, and then we'll open it up to all of you on the call. All right. Excellent. First question is for Ebony. I feel like I'm playing a game show. Tell me a bit more about your meetings. Ladies, don't forget to put your microphones off of mute. Thank you. How often do you connect? Who sets up the meetings, and is it formal or informal?
So I think because of the times we were in, it was kind of, I don't want to say easy to like start connecting, but I'm a huge calendar person, and I know Anna is a huge calendar person and is very busy. And so when we first made our first connection, it was just very like straight to the point. I'm going to put a bi-weekly meeting on your calendar. If you can't make it, or if I can't make it, just let me know. But that was kind of what worked best for us. So that calendar invite went out right away, and we've stuck to that, I would say, schedule for the most part since we were paired in August. So I think that, that's how they go. And it's been really, I would say, it's been a very, I don't want to use the word like cool, but cool experience, because I think when that happened, I felt an instant connection, and like someone really cared about spending time with me and getting to know me and learn more about me because of how proactive she was in ensuring that meeting was there. And then the communication has been really helpful because, of course, we can't necessarily meet bi-weekly all the time considering our schedules and lives. But if we can't, it's always like, how do we stay in touch even if we don't meet that week? So that's been working really, really well for us.
Wonderful. So this next one is for Anna. Anna, when you're mentoring, do you prefer to give advice, or do you prefer to coach your mentee to come up with their own solutions?
Ooh, gosh, I don't know. It's hard to delineate. I mean, I say, anytime we're talking with another human and we're meeting them just person to person, we don't want to assume that what they need is advice, right? So I think I always go in thinking like, where can I listen? Where can I learn? And trying to identify and specifically asking what she needs during specific times. Like, is this something you want advice on? And we got clear pretty quick on what were the areas that she really wanted to dig in, where I could maybe add the most value. And those are probably the areas that I focused on giving advice, and then following up, like, how's that going? Do you need anything else from me? And then there were areas where we just became partners, right, in life, and we would follow up with each other as friends, right? How's that going? There were ups and downs of 2020, just like everybody. And so having that true partnership, and then it didn't become about what she needed or what I needed from her. It just became about how we could support each other, and then being bold enough to ask when one of us, because it goes both ways, but when one of us needed something specific.
Excellent. So to that point, Ebony, how did you initially establish your goals?
Oh man, goals in a pandemic. That's like a scary thing, right?
We were like, we just want to get through it.
Like that's what I'm thinking. Like, I just want to survive right now. And honestly, I think that was it, right? Like, when I began to, like, when I met Anna, it was just like, you know what, like, life is tough right now. There's a lot going on. Here's what I do, right? And I think the one thing that like really stuck with me was, you know, when she, you know, looked at me via Zoom, right, and told me, you know, find what you can do in this time and like make the best of it. You know, she really supported me. And I think she helped me pull out some of those goals that I wasn't really thinking about because like the world was like crumbling around me. And I think in that, it was just like her light and her, you know, even when she would send emails, it would just be like love and light to you. And at the moment I would need that so much that it would be like, okay, I can focus on a goal right now. And so I was able to really start setting goals. But I would say, I think I learned not to be so hard on myself with goals in this time and to let things flow. And I learned that from her and kind of being open and transparent about what I was going through or what was going on around me. And she being able to identify that and say, okay, well, how can we make that work for you in this time?
Right. Because we would talk about sort of where we both wanted to be in the future. Right. And what were our plans to get there? Sort of that dreaming big together. And then how obviously, how could we support each other? But obviously then also giving grace, right? When we needed it of like, hey, I thought I was going to make more progress on this. And that includes me too, right? Like I thought I was going to make more progress, but here's where we're just giving ourselves some permission to be here today, right? Just one day.
So Ebony, talk to me a little bit more about your goals. Were they month-to-month goals? You talked about creating a future. Both of you talked about creating a future. That future state, was it a year out, 6 months out? What was your time frame?
So I think being very mindful of, once again, the pandemic and what was going on, I think it became more so just like benchmarks of our meetings, right? And so just like that follow-up, that checking in, you know, there will be times where I think I appreciated Anna kind of identifying like, this would be great to do here in this month, or this would be something great to do here. I'm an author, and I'm really trying to learn how to get, you know, into keynote speaking and, you know, delivering workshops and those types of things. And so creating contracts and creating a one-pager was definitely something I was interested in. And I really appreciated Anna's vulnerability and like sharing, you know, her documents or sharing what she, you know, would use. And then I would kind of take that and say, okay, this is how I can transform this. And I actually did get a corporate speaking engagement during our time, and use, you know, some of that very same language, or, you know, I was able to say, oh, this is how I can frame this, and this is how I can frame that. And so I would say it wasn't necessarily like in 6 months, I want to be doing this, but it was just in this pandemic, my goal, right, is to survive this and still have like hitting these marks. And I think being able to hit them and do it without giving myself like this set goal or this set time frame was really relieving, and having her constant support was really beneficial in that time.
Excellent.
So I hope that answered that.
Yes, definitely. Anna, so when you went into this mentoring relationship, how would you say that your approach to mentoring Ebony has evolved over the course of your relationship thus far?
I think probably this is going to be helpful for everybody because Ebony did a good job of putting an asterisk on this conversation, right? Of like mentoring everything during a pandemic was different. You know, we went about everything differently. And there certainly have been some times where I've been the mentor or the mentee where we've had more established timelines, right? Like when do you really want to accomplish that, and how can I follow up, et cetera. But knowing that there was just some unpredictability of what we were doing, and knowing that Ebony is balancing a lot, right? You know, she's committed as an entrepreneur to this day job and doing such impactful work there. And then also trying to promote her book and her speaking ability. So, and being a mama too, right? So like, I guess I put a big asterisk on that and think like, we just had to be much more flexible. And I think we're still in that phase of 2021, not to discourage anybody to put timelines, because we certainly did help hold each other accountable for things, right? Like, where are you going with that and how's that going? And we checked in, but it was probably less maybe formalized than I've had with other mentee mentor relationships in the past, because it needed to be more flexible. And I think
Excellent.
we get that, if I can add there, Julie, I think we get that by having really honest conversations, right? And I don't want the mentees to be afraid of saying that's too much, right? That's too much, or I can't commit to that amount right now. Here's what I can commit to, because these relationships need to work for real life, right? Not, we can all, put these big dreams and hopes out there. And there are certainly times that we need to get that. And probably in those cases, I would say there needs to be maybe more than one mentor, right? If you've got very specific targeted goals, being paired with somebody generally through tempo like this is going to help you from the overview perspective of a mentor, and they can help with connections and they can help give advice. But if there's something very targeted and goal oriented, maybe they could even introduce you to somebody else, a secondary mentor that could be very time bound and very goal specific.
Wonderful. So Ebony, to that point, I know as a mentee, and when I hold myself accountable and I ask somebody else to hold me accountable, sometimes I can get ashamed or embarrassed when I'm not meeting objectives that I've set out for myself, especially since I set the bar so high. Have you encountered that as part of this mentoring relationship? How did you approach it? And did you even go through any type of concerns or worries that your mentor might be disappointed in the accomplishments that you did or didn't accomplish?
Nope, never felt that way. But I think once again, it was just that approach of really understanding. And I love what Anna said, and it's that reminder to everyone on the call, like that transparency, that honesty is really important and key, because when you know that, and I think one of the things I learned was Anna was very open and honest and transparent with me as well. So I think it was really a great way for us to establish that relationship. And then when I didn't, hit a goal or reach a benchmark, I was able to be very transparent and open about why, and to have someone understand that and still be there in support and still kind of navigate me through that, I think was very helpful. And I think, that's something that I really would take away and just kind of, make sure everyone knows, like going into, your pair. And it's not that you have to like tell someone your whole background or your whole story. I think like Anna and I, like, she knows everything about me, and I'm okay with that. But you just have to be realistic with yourself. And if you're not realistic with yourself and communicating that to your mentor, I think that's where some of that disappointment can occur, or when you set that goal and then you're not communicating about what you're going through, and then you don't achieve that goal, and then they're kind of thinking like, oh, well, what's going on? And it might just be they want you to open up more. They want you to share more so they can better support you. I think that's maybe where some of that frustration may come from a mentor, if that is something that's going on.
And I think, Ebony, you're being very generous, but I think I led by example in a way of I missed deadlines, right? I had to cancel meetings, and I was very vulnerable about what was going on with my life, right? I mean, I homeschooled my twins for 8 months last year. So when we met, I was in the thick of sort of this like cloudy, dark, depressive episode. As much as I love my kids, we had been in the pandemic for a while, trying to run a business, trying to do all these things. So I made those mistakes, which gave Ebony, ironically, right, the permission to do the same thing. But I think the takeaway from a leadership perspective for each other, regardless of you're the mentee or the mentor, is setting that example and being really clear up front that those things are going to happen, and that at least me, for my style, you should be very clear on your leadership style, but I lead with vulnerability, and I lead with relationship when I am, whether I have a mentee or a co-founder or, an employee, it doesn't matter. The relationships are all the same. So establish that tone very early on, and then talk about how that looks like, what that looks like in operation.
Wonderful. So this next one is for Anna. Anna, tell me something you learned from your mentee.
Oh my gosh. So many things. I think I do want to acknowledge that, we were partners during a pandemic, but we were also partners during a time where racial violence was happening and social injustice was happening. And for me to be paired with a Black woman who, became a friend regardless, right? But that was also very unique for me. And to have the, I guess, honor and space to be able to talk about that with her from her perspective. I'm that way anyway. So we were talking about that with my team and my family and my friends, but to be able to have that, I think was really special for me to be able to gain an intimate look into her own perspectives of what was happening, not only in the pandemic, but in the United States with some of the things that were happening. So, and that's not just because Ebony is a Black woman. That's because of Ebony is who she is, right? And the relationship that we had built.
And
Ebony, how did that feel for you mentoring up?
Yeah, so I'm going to add to that. I think one of the things that was of great value in that time is like being able to have a space, right, where I'm kind of sharing this, and I don't want to necessarily say like frustration, right, but these are the things that are going on around me, and then have someone that could look at me and say, okay, so how, and not like in a way of like, so what are you going to do about that? But just more so like, and here are all these wonderful things you can do, and how can you translate that into these goals, right? And so I was able to transition into like diversity, equity, and inclusion work, which was never something that I sought out to do, right? I think naturally as a Black woman, naturally as a woman, as a mother and wife to, you know, Black boys and men, I have this passion for that work, right? Just naturally. But now I have contracts, like going into schools and having conversations about how to have courageous conversations with your children about race and mental health. How to, right? Like I'm doing these things because I had someone who allowed me to be vulnerable, who listened to it, and then who shifted it into something that I could really feel good about and do something with. And I don't think that if I didn't have that, I think push, I don't necessarily think that I would have translated it into that way. It probably would have just stayed as like, we just had this great conversation about this great topic. But now I'm like having this conversation with so many other people because she noticed that in me. And so I think that was a really cool piece of that as well.
And that's the role, right? That's the role of leader, of mentor, of partner, of friend, is to be able to say, like, I see you. And these are the natural things that Ebony was already doing and talented and built over years of experience. And so then how does she leverage those, and how could I give her a unique perspective to do that? So there's nobody turning anybody into something that they weren't. It's highlighting what we already are, and how do we make that better for each other?
Yeah.
So this one is a kind of a loaded question, but during the pandemic, did you ever feel like you weren't mentally or emotionally present and want to be mentored? How'd you overcome this?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and
because this is for both of us. Yes.
What did that look like for you?
So I would say like naturally, right, everyone was going through something and may still be, right? Like there was just a ton of stuff going on. Whether it was, you know, losing family members, you know, moving and trying to grasp different things happening, parenting, right, in the midst of a pandemic. And I think one of the key takeaways that I learned, even in, you know, being a mental health advocate, right, is just being vulnerable and transparent and letting it be known. I think that's where that partnership came in, and where there were many days where we just send each other texts like, hey, this is what's going on in my life right now. I don't necessarily have the capacity to do anything. And it would turn into just like inspirational texts back and forth, and like checking in the morning, like, hey, I just wanted to send you some love today and let you know you got this, right? Like it became that kind of relationship. Because there were many days, I think, for both of us that felt like that. And I think having a mentor and mentee, right? Like having someone kind of going through those things, and I don't say like together, but just like with you and have that understanding of what you were going through was really, really pivotal and key for the advancement of our relationship, and just, I think, us in general.
Yeah. And I think that was very unique during the pandemic in many aspects. And what I will say is, if I look back at other really effective partnerships that I've had in the past, that's a cornerstone of those two. So, you know, regardless of what 2021 looks like for everybody, I hope that the mentees and mentors continue to display that, first of all, self-awareness and reflection, that we have the power and permission to pause and be vulnerable and be raw and not be on at all times as high-performing humans. But also then to have a safe space to say that, right, to each other, and to not have that be an excuse for anything, but to sometimes have it be a reason why one of us may not be able to show up for the other one in the way that person wants to show up for the other person. Not that the other person expects, but that we want to be able to give.
Yeah. And I think one of the things too, and I think this just kind of came out, and this is just general advice that the committee, like we've talked about a little, is that, understanding that this is a partnership. And many times when we think of like a mentor-mentee, we think of like mentor up here, mentee up here. They kind of control the show and I kind of follow along. And I think when you start to learn that it's a partnership, you really learn, like, if there are days that Anna isn't mentally available and she shares that with me, how can I then be a support to her in that time? How can I rearrange the schedule or, send a text or, any of those things? And I think some of the things we'll hear from, mentees is just like, if they don't hear from their mentor, it can be a sense of frustration, kind of like that person, doesn't care or wasn't thinking about them. And I think when we start to understand, right, we're all in a global pandemic, we're all going through things. And just because I'm the mentor doesn't mean that I'm not human and I'm not going through something and I don't have that. And so being able to recognize that and say, maybe I should send the first email, maybe I should make the first call. I think that is something that I just give as advice to the mentees on the call, is to keep that in mind. If it's been a few weeks and you haven't heard from your mentor, you can try to reach out as well, and don't always leave it in the hand of your mentor and then kind of feel like they're letting you down, because it could just very well be that they need some support as well.
Yeah, because I will tell you, look, no matter everyone on this call is a busy human. So this is not about the mentors being busy than the mentees. This is about saying whoever misses a meeting or has to change it or misses a deadline or, for the third time, I forgot to say that person's name. We just have to, the other one then has to say, like, the other one is human and let me follow up, right? Let me be the one that asks again, because I promise you, from both sides, the mentee and the mentor, we did this because we care about humans and we want to get better as a collective. And so look at your mentor and remember that they committed to this for a reason and that they do care about you. And I don't believe we ever need to assume that it's personal, right? Unless somebody tells you that this is not a good fit. And sometimes that happens, right? But you should do that early, right? But then once you say, like, yeah, I think this is energetically, this feels okay, this is going to build over time, go back. It's not just on the mentor's shoulders to own that. And we owe each other, maybe not owe, but we should gift each other the reminders, right? That like, hey, Anna, remember you were going to send me that name for this? Yes, I was, right? Like, just give each other some help in that area.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So thank you for all of that perspective and advice. We're going to move on to the Q&A section of this session. I do have a few questions that are coming through the chat. Others, if you have any questions that come to mind, direct message me and I will read them off as they come in. So the first one says, the panel has talked a lot about goals, time-bound benchmarks, and meeting deadlines. Do you think that's the key to successful mentorship, or is it possible to be successful without those types of stated goals?
Ooh, if you heard Ebony and I talk and please don't take that away. I think that goals and timelines have a place. And I feel like a lot of times it is a sounding board that you can figure that out together. So the mentee, I believe, should own that, right? If they are desiring growth on a specific timeline, then they should be specific about that so that the mentor knows, right, the pace that they want to take. But that is one area where I would say the mentor needs to follow the mentee's rhythm of how fast you want to be moving on this so that we can really support.
Yeah. And I think too, like, one of the things we learned was, of course, I'm a very goal-oriented person. I'm a planner, but this pandemic taught me, like, I can't, right? Like, that's just sometimes like very hard to do. And so I think going in with a lot of that vulnerability and transparency is what led us to the partnership we have. But I mean, I think, there are moments where you can just be just a support or a friend in a time and not even worry. Like today, we're not even worried about those goals. We're not even worried, like, you're hurting right now, or you're not feeling well, or this happened at home, or this is right. Like, and so how can I be that support? And so I think most definitely it can happen, and the relationship can really grow with or without those. set in stone kind of things. I think once again, to Anna's point, it just depends on who you are and what your own personal goals and timeline is. And if you're looking for this person to do that for you, you have to be very open and transparent about that so that they understand how to be that support to you.
I love this next question that I have here. Is it okay if you cry in your mentor meeting? Asking for a friend.
Yeah,
I hope
Anna
so,
seen me cry.
since I for sure have.
I'm like, Anna seen me cry. I wrote a book about it being okay to cry. So I'm a crier. Happy tears, sad tears, I'm just gonna cry. So I would say yes, it is. Be vulnerable, be transparent. And just know, like Anna said, if someone took the time out to sign up for this, it's because they truly care.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things we've all learned in this space is just empathy. Is that connection is necessary and needed in this time. And so, don't be afraid to just be who you are, right? And if that's, broken, I think we had an EWL meeting, a committee chair and co-chair meeting one day where, it just became a sharing, like, it's just rough right now. And we are not functional. We are hurting. We're losing people, family member, right? Like, we all started kind of sharing and the tears started rolling and prayers were going. Like, it was just a moment of like, wow. But I remember giving some feedback, about that moment and how much it meant to me to have a group of strong, powerful women be vulnerable, show that strength of that vulnerability in that moment. And so I would say, of course it is.
Yeah.
It is okay.
Yeah. I think so too. And what I also want to say there, Julie, is that as much as Ebony and I are saying like, yep, we both cried on the, I mean, I'm a crier already and so is Ebony. So that's the way that we went. But I don't want people on this call to be nervous if they are less emotional, right? That's okay too. You don't have to be a crier to be a good mentor. I coach high performers who are introverted, extroverted, C-suite, intern. It doesn't matter. Like, be who you are and lead authentically there. We can show empathy without crying. And I want to say, if you are a crier, this should be a mentor-mentee relationship, should be a safe space where you don't have to put on a face and you can be yourself, even if you are just feeling overwhelmed and don't even know why.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys. One more question for the two of you. Recognizing that you work in different sectors, did you find any challenges in providing advice that is relevant across the sectors? Can you share tips on building connection perspective regardless of career path?
Want to go first, Ebony, or you want me to?
You can go first.
Okay. I feel like we all have value that we can share with other people, regardless of industry. I mean, if you really strip it back, we like to think we're very unique, but we're humans who are trying to hold it all together and make an impact. So if you try to get to that, I think you can find things that could be helpful. And sometimes it's even best to not work in the industry, right? Like, if you're working for the industry, again, that's a very targeted mentor that you should go seek out specifically. But when you get a mentor like this, that tends to be like, we get to make it whatever we want to make it, then figure that out, right? It doesn't have to be specifically targeted towards your role. And sometimes that really objective opinion or questions like, hey, how does that work? And just by telling me how that works, then I can say like, well, have you thought of, or, oh, that's good. And you might come up with your own answer just by telling me how it works and describing it. So I think it could be an advantage at times.
Yeah. And I think too, Anna and I had a lot of similarities and connection in what we do. And I think some of the transitions I'm working on in my own space were very in line with a lot of the work that she does. And so I think that was the connection there. And so I think, there's, to that point, there's some kind of connection regardless. So just being able to kind of notice that, own that, and just mentor in that best way is key. But I think one of the things we were able to do was to kind of see, how we could lean on one another, what things we were doing that kind of were, interwoven, and what connections, I would say, oh, this is something I'm interested in. Oh, I have these connections with this person. I can email this person, like having that understanding and background, I think was very beneficial for me and some of the endeavors that I had and goals that I had set for myself.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you both, Anna and Ebony, for your perspective, for being vulnerable and open to talking to us about your experiences as a mentor-mentee pair and providing those priceless insights and just giving us a little bit of things to think about in terms of how do we want to take our own mentoring relationships. And hopefully those of you on the call are able to get a couple nuggets and try some techniques out. And maybe we'll see you on one of our future discussion panels. So I am going to turn it over to Obi right now.
Thank you.
Awesome. So happy that everybody's on here. Great work to Ebony and Anna for really taking us through how their relationship is going and really being able to share some wisdom for everybody here on the call and to inspire. I'm Obi Boozer. I am the vice chair of the one-to-one mentoring committee. So I'm excited to be here with you guys. Everybody should have received this programming one-to-one mentoring packet. This is the new 2021 packet with the new 2021 tempo branding. So woohoo. You guys should be able to really look through it. It should simply be a guideline. There's a sample agenda in there for your first meeting that you set up with your mentor and or mentee. It also has roles of the mentor and mentee. And also additionally, which is new this year, based on the feedback from EWL and Tempo members as well, there's a resource page that has been added to the packet. So we think that will be useful for everybody based on the feedback that we've gotten during this global pandemic. And we hope that it'll be very beneficial for you guys going forward. Awesome. Additionally, these are just some of the 5 tips as a group, as a committee, that we've collectively thought that this could be very helpful and beneficial for everybody going forward. One of the things is really deciding on what works for you guys, right? What is going to be the bread and butter for how you guys meet? You know, is it going to be that you send calendar invites for the entire year? Is it that you're going to play it by ear? Really figure out what works for the nature of your relationship as a mentor and as a mentee. Next, as mentees, really be specific about your goals and what your mentor can help you with, right? They don't know what they can help you with unless you're transparent, unless you're honest, and that if you're going to really just be there to say, hey, these are the things that I need help with in my career, personal life, X, Y, and Z. And I'm pretty sure that the mentors who are of Tempo are willing to be there with you and along the way on your journey, whether that's professionally, your career, and your personal life, whatever it may be. Number 3, really take the time to get to know each other, right? You know, it doesn't have to always be about business. And I found that the greatest relationships that I've been able to have as a mentee, even just coming into Tempo and now being in EWL, is really understanding who are the people that I'm around all the time. Who are the people on this call, right? Just having those genuine relationships then amplifies how you guys then even talk about business endeavors, your career, and your aspirations. Additionally, don't get hung up on the mentor-mentee titles. I know sometimes people love it and there's nothing wrong with it, but we really want this to be mutually beneficial. We want it to be a true, genuine relationship. So make it that and, you know, really take advantage of this program. And then last but not least, keep each other accountable to things you said you do. Ebony and Anna really spoke highly on this last piece. And, you know, it's not just on the mentor to do that. It's on the mentee as well. You know, we're all in a global pandemic. Check on your mentors. A lot of times, you know, we get hung up on being the mentee and as if we should just be the ones poured into. Make sure that you're also doing the same and pouring back into your mentor. And I will hand this over to Faisha.
Good evening and thank you, Obi. My name is Faisha Limbell and I am also a member of the mentoring committee. Super excited to be here today. So we are going to sort of turn the conversation over to you guys and give you guys a chance to interact. Ebony and Anna really set us up with really taking us through their relationship, especially during the pandemic. And I think we all know that we all need a little more mentorship. We have to mentor up and mentor one another during this time. So we've included a couple questions to sort of get us the conversation started. We tried our best to put you guys into pairs, but if you are solo, we're going to partner you up with someone else. We're going to give you 10 minutes to go through these 4 questions. We're also going to enter them in the chat for you guys. And if you don't get to all of them, that's okay. This is the opportunity for you to get to know each other and really sort of start that conversation, dig in a little deeper, and get to know each other. So let's enter our breakout rooms.
I like your background. Kelsey, are you able to do a broadcast message?
Yes.
I feel like we're in like a sound booth behind the scenes.
I know, right? Oops.
Looks like Patty showers in a room by herself.
Oh,
People were dropping off and messing me up. I can move her, I guess. Let's see.
I know her mentee is Angela.
Yeah, she must have dropped off.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move her.
Jen, this is your first kickoff.
No,
Isn't it?
I've been to others.
Oh, you have? The virtual ones?
Not the virtual. You are
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, that's what I meant, virtual.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. It was really, I love Anna and Anna and Ebony.
Yeah.
Emily. Ebony. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
They're a really good pair. You've got like magic in your matches, Mara.
I know, but then people hear that and then like, what if their match doesn't work out?
Gracie was like texting me. Krista Brookman was texting me.
Good.
Like super excited. Rose Spano was texting me.
Good.
Yeah. So
They're all
good
like, good
stuff.
job on the matches, Jen.
No, they didn't say anything like that. I was like, who are you matched with again? We were just talking
Yeah.
about like Reese's
So
Fresh.
that was the end of the program. Hope that you connected with your mentor-mentee or made a new connection, an EWL member or Temple member. But now we really pass the baton to you and your matches. The committee that is listed on the screen, we are here if you ever have any questions, concerns, suggestions. Please know we're here. It is not just a one and done after the kickoff. We provided the welcome packet for some frequently asked questions, but we're always open to hearing your feedback about how to keep improving our program and hope that this goes on forever. So with that, thanks to all the committee members who shared, who participated, Anna and Ebony and Julie for that awesome panel. I know I learned a lot and am inspired, and hope everyone has a great evening and Friday Eve. Yay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Have a good night.